All right, I'm going to start recording, and then if some people hop on later, we'll just let them in. So, hello. Just grab regular props. I know not everybody has props at home, so if you do, a couple blankets, a couple blocks, a blanket, and a strap. If you don't have good yoga props, then you'll just have to make do without. You can sometimes use like household items, like regular blankets for yoga blankets. If you don't have a strap, some sort of band or a long sock, sometimes that will work for certain things depending what we're doing. But I definitely recommend if you're doing any sort of online yoga that eventually at some point you should get at least some yoga props. All right, so we're gonna start in child's pose. So in you go.
Did I make it?
You're in, Crystal.
I didn't have it downloaded.
Oh,
so I had to download.
It's once you do it once, then it's fine.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna mute. I mute everyone except me, obviously. Not because I don't care to hear you, but just so that we don't have a lot of noise in the background. So it's child's pose. And I was just saying, Crystal, I'm not sure if you have props at home, but if you do, grab a couple blocks, blanket, strap. If you don't, you can kind of makeshift the strap with all sorts of things and blankets, but you can also, I mean, anything would do, you'll just have to make do. And then hopefully at some point you can get the props you need. So child's pose it is. I recommend knees a bit wider than your hips so that you can get your hips a bit lower, usually kind of frees up the low back a little bit. And if your head doesn't come to the mat, slide something under it. This is, again, where props can be helpful. And just drop in here and find your breath for a few moments. Some of you either here live or who are going to be doing this recording later. We just finished a long weekend of teacher training. So my plan this morning, Gabe and I call this class yoga hour because we just want to be able to teach whatever we feel like that day. So some days it'll be slow practice, some days we'll do vinyasa, faster practice, some days more hatha, some days we do more meditation, really kind of whatever is happening. But today we're gonna do a little bit combo of, we'll do some flow and movement just so that we don't totally fall asleep and kind of get things moving. Sometimes when you're sore, that can be helpful. And then we'll end with some longer, more yin-like holds. So just take a few more breaths here. Let's take a few more breaths. Take last full deep breath here in the child's pose. And then next time you inhale, come up through center onto hands and knees. Just set your hands up well. So really widen your hands shoulder width and spread your fingers, and then turn your hands out so that your wrist creases are parallel to the top of your mat, index fingers parallel to each other. And then on your next inhale breath, drop your belly, arch your low back, sink between the shoulder blades, and look up, cow pose. Exhale around the spine, push the mat away, really scoop your belly, chin to chest, cat pose. We'll do this a few more rounds. So inhale to the cow, low back arches, look up. Exhale, cat, round your spine, scoop your belly, tuck your chin. How about 3 more? Last couple, just make sure you're moving with your breath nice and slow. Last one. Good, and then come to neutral. Walk your knees back and we'll go right in. So curl your toes under, up you go, downward facing dog. I'm guessing it's your first down dog today. So just warm up a little bit here. Bend one leg at a time. Find your breath. Shake your head. Any movements here, really anything that sounds good or feels good is cool with me. And then next time you finish your exhale, you just find stillness. Go back to straight legs, straight arms. Really push the pads of all 10 fingers into the mat. Push the floor away and relax your head and neck. Next, inhale, lift your heels really high. Come up high out of the ball ends of the feet. Bend your knees a little bit and stick your butt way up in the air. So you arch your low back a little like a mini cow pose. Pull your belly to your spine. Keep your hips high. Straighten your legs. And go slow. Stretch those heels way back and way down. Breathe here. Last breath. Good. Look forward and just take a slow walk, feet to hand. And when you get up to the top of your mat, separate your feet hip width, spread your toes wide. If you need blocks because your legs are pretty tight still this morning, that's fine. Otherwise, fingertips to the floor if you can. Keep a soft bend in your knees for now. And try to glue your low belly to the thighs a little bit. Relax your head and shift your weight forward. And then any amount that you're able to, it's morning. I think morning practice is different, but you can begin to straighten those legs a bit. Those of you that can get your legs straight, the work for you is to pull your kneecaps up and firm your thighs. Even if your legs aren't all the way straight, try to pull those kneecaps up and firm your thighs. Keep your head and neck soft. Take a couple of breaths. Last breath here. Good. Soften those knees more. Put your hands on your hips. Press down into the heels. Inhale, come all the way up to stand. Find Tadasana, mountain pose. Arms can come down. Ground through all four corners of your feet. Turn the legs. Pull your belly back. Relax your shoulders and just take a couple of breaths. So traditional Tadasana like this is big toes together, heels slightly apart. That's up to you. Sometimes hip width just feels more stable for people. So I think you decide if you want feet hip width or big toes together. When you're ready here, inhale, sweep up. We're just going to do some slow sun salutations to start. Hands touch. And then exhale, fold forward. Back into that Uttanasana forward fold. Put your hands on your shins. Inhale, look up, half lift. And then exhale, bend your knees a lot, plant your hands and step back into a plank pose. So plank pose is shoulders over wrists, legs are nice and firm. If you need to put your knees down, you can, otherwise hold plank. Push the mat away, lift your belly and squeeze your legs. Now let's put the knees down if they're not already, and slowly bend your elbows lower all the way to your belly. Once you get down there, come to the tops of your feet, squeeze your shoulder blades together, inhale, lift up, cobra. Try to not worry about how high up you go, but rather use your back muscles and your butt muscles to lift you, not so much your hands. Good, lower down, curl your toes under, press back through bent knees, Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. Take 3 or 4 breaths here. Strong arms, strong legs. Next time you inhale, lift your heels high and look forward. Bend your knees a lot. Exhale all the way to empty, and on no breath, step or hop feet to hands. Hands to shins. Inhale, half lift. Engage your back muscles. Exhale, fold forward, Uttanasana. Inhale, sweep the arms up, reach up, look up, hands touch, and then exhale, mountain pose, Tadasana pause. So sun salutations, that was like pretty slow through. And we can kind of increase difficulty as we go, but we're gonna do another round like that, maybe slightly faster. This helps us warm up. Here we go. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, fold forward. Hands to shins. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, bend your knees, plant your hands, step back, plank pose. Pause in plank pose. Now, if you can do it without lowering your knees, cool. Otherwise, do it if you need to. Shift forward, lower all the way to your belly. Come to the tops of your feet. Inhale, cobra. Exhale, lower down. Curl your toes under. Press back, downward facing dog. Let's take a few breaths here. Good. Next inhale, heels up, look forward. Bend your knees, exhale fully, and on no breath, step or hop, feet to hands. Hands to shins, half lift, inhale. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, reach up, sweep up, look up, and then bring your arms down, pause, mountain pose, and take a breath. Sun salutation A, we're gonna stick with this, but if you have a block, grab a block and put it on its flat side between your upper inner thighs. If you don't have a block, you just do the same thing without a block. It's the same. Just a little more inner thigh squeeze when you have a block. So now Tadasana, for sure your feet will be more hip width because you're squeezing the block between your upper inner thighs. Here we go. Inhale, sweep arms up, look up. Exhale, fold forward. Hands to shins. Inhale, half lift. Engage your back. Bend your knees. You got to grip the block and just take little baby hops to plank pose. Squeeze the block. From plank pose, shift forward. Keep the block. Lower all the way to your belly. The block will kind of push up. That's okay. Come to the tops of your feet. Squeeze the block. Squeeze your butt. Inhale, cobra. Up you go. Exhale, lower. Curl your toes under. Squeeze the block. Press back, downward dog. 3 breaths here, squeezing the block. So really feel how that block pulls the belly back and up. Almost like you could shoot the block out behind you, spin your inner thighs back. Breathe. Next inhale, lift your heels high, look forward, bend your knees, squeeze the block, and you'll take either one hop or some baby hops, right? Just little rabbit hops like I'm doing to the top of your mat. Hands to shins, inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold in. Inhale, reach up. Squeeze the block. And then Tadasana, squeeze the block, pause. Really lift the inner arches of your feet. Squeeze the block with your inner thighs, pull your belly back. So we're gonna keep the block, but put it more between your knees if you have a block, if you don't. And then grab your strap if you have one. Again, if you don't, you'll do the same actions. You just won't have a strap. And make the loop of your strap about shoulder width. Kind of head of your upper arm to head of your other upper arm. And then with the block between your knees, stretch your arms out in front of you and slip the loop around your wrist. All right. And when you're ready, stretch your arms out in front of you, spread your fingers wide like jazz hands and break the strap apart. So you push out with the arms, Squeeze in with the legs into the block. Here we go. Stretch your arms all the way up overhead. Urdhva Hastasana. Break the strap. Exhale, bend your knees and sit. Utkatasana. Stick your butt back. Lift your arms, gaze forward. So push out against the strap. Squeeze into the block. One more breath. Good. Straighten your legs. Fold forward. Once you get down there, you can lose the strap, lose the block, and then bring your hands to your shins. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, plant your hands, step or hop back plank pose. Inhale, shift forward. Exhale, lower to your belly. Inhale, cobra. Exhale, lower down, curl toes, press back, downward facing dog. Inhale, look forward. Exhale, step right foot between hands. If you've got a blanket and you need it, you can put it under your knee. We're not going to be here long. Lower your left knee. So if you can hang for just a few breaths, then do it. Take a moment here, and then as you're ready, bring your hands to your right leg and lift your torso up. Good, you guys. Take another moment here. Next inhale breath, sweep both arms up. Like you had that strap around your wrist, squeeze your arms, and then exhale, touch the floor, lift your back knee, step back, downward facing dog. Inhale, look forward. Exhale, step left foot between hands. And then lower that back knee. Pause here, just kind of allow your hips to settle. And then when you're ready, hands to thigh, up you come. Take a moment here. And then inhale, sweep your arms up. Strong arms, lift your chest. Good, hands down, lift your back knee up. Step back, downward facing dog. Let's take 3 breaths here. Next inhale, heels up, look forward. Bend your knees, exhale your lungs all the way to empty. On no breath, step or hop. Inhale, half lift, hands to shins. Exhale, fold. Bend your knees, pretend there's a block between your knees. Squeeze the knees together, and then inhale, arms up, Utkatasana. Exhale, stand up, arms down, Tadasana. Pause. Find your breath. Surya Namaskar B. So that was a slow Surya Namaskar B variation. And that can get the breath really pumping. So see if you can let the dust settle. I always notice it when I have to talk and do it at the same time. Like, whoo. So this time, if you're not already, let's bring those big toes together, heels slightly apart. As if you still had block between your knees, strap around your wrists. Inhale, sweep the arms up by your ears. Exhale, bend your knees and sit Utkatasana. Take an inhale here, really lift your chest. Exhale, fold forward. Hands to shins, inhale, half lift. Exhale, plant your hands, step or hop back plank pose. Shift forward, lower all the way down. So we're not doing chaturangas, we're just going to the belly today. Inhale, cobra. Exhale, lower, curl your toes under, press back down, dog. Inhale, look forward. Exhale, step right foot between hands. This time, keep your back knee lifted and squeeze your back leg, the strongest, straightest leg ever. It's like a plank pose leg. And then when you're ready, inhale, stretch your arms up, high lunge. You've got to squeeze that back leg, those back glutes even more. Good, touch the floor, step back, downward dog. Inhale, look forward again. Exhale, step left foot forward. Squeeze your back leg a lot. Inhale, sweep the arms up, high lunge. Good, exhale, touch down. Step back, down dog, take 3 breaths here. Good. Next inhale, lift your heels. Look forward, bend your knees, step or hop. Feet to hands, bring those big toes together. Hands to shins, inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold forward, bend your knees, sit low. Inhale, arms up, Utkatasana. Exhale, stand up, arms down, Tadasana. Take a breather. So we've got one more round of Surya B. Full Surya B is actually Warrior One, not a high lunge, so that's what we're gonna do. If you have a block, grab it and put it at the top of your mat on its second side. So that's not its shortest side, that's not its tallest side, but second side. Yeah. And then when you come to stand, bring your toes kind of right behind that block. If you don't have a block, you'll just imagine. Use your imagination. All right, big toes together. Inhale, sweep your arms up. Exhale, bend your knees, Utkatasana, sit low. Inhale here, chest up. Exhale, fold forward. Put your hands on the block. Inhale, half lift. Bend your knees, plant your hands on either side of the block, and step back to plank pose. So if you are someone who struggles with plank pose, I would put your knees down. You can do this. Otherwise, keep those knees up for the challenge. Shift way forward of the fingers, and then bend your elbows and hover your chest right above the block. That's chaturanga. Come to the tops of your feet. Pull your hips forward, straighten your arms. Thighs are off the floor, that's up dog. Exhale, down dog. So if you just did that and you were like, oh shit, chaturanga is very hard. Up dog is a huge back bend. So if that was too much, then you should just like stick for a while until you get stronger to lowering all the way to your belly and doing cobra. It's totally fine. I usually need to do several cobras before my body's ready for an up dog. Look forward, step your foot between your hands. You can move that block. This time, spin your back heel down, but remember to step on more of a railroad track. So kind of scoot that left foot to the left so your heels aren't in the same line. And then bend into your right knee more. Keep your back leg strong and super glue that outer left heel to the mat. Don't change your legs. Inhale, sweep your arms up, Warrior One. In fact, sit lower in your right knee. One more breath. Good, touch the floor, spin back, heel up, step back, down dog. Inhale, look forward, exhale, step left foot. Spin your right heel down, remember, step it a little wider, bend more into your left knee. Strong back leg, glue that outer heel to your yoga mat. Inhale, arms up, Virabhadrasana 1. Sit lower. Good, hands down. Spin back, heel up, step back, downward facing dog. Take a few breaths here. Inhale, heels up, look forward. Bend your knees a lot. Exhale, step or hop, feet to hands, big toes together. Inhale, half lift, hands to shin. Exhale, fold. Bend your knees a lot, sit low. Inhale, Utkatasana. Exhale, push into the feet, stand up, arms down, Tadasana, pause. Let your breath settle. Great, all right, you guys can come have a seat. So we got our juices flowing a little. Let's do some longer holds. It kind of depends on your setup, how much room you have, but I'm turning to face the long edge of the mat, so I've got my whole mat. So you could do that, or if you don't, you know, it's your house, so like if your legs are off your mat, it's fine, but you're gonna bring your legs wide. And even though we might treat this more like a yin pose, it doesn't mean we just don't give a shit about alignment, right? Give yourself the best chance for success. So reach behind you, pull your booty flesh out of the way so that you're right on those sitting bones. And you can kind of tip your pelvis forward, and it just helps you sit up a little taller. If you still struggle, sitting on a blanket isn't a bad idea. You're pretty tight in your hips and hammies. The higher up you can be, the better. And I've got my blocks nearby. If you have them, they're nice to use. And while yin, we're looking to be more passive, you still can like start with the intention of like, okay, my toes and my knees are going to point straight up so that when you fold forward here, your spine can stay nice and long. I've got my blocks. You can stay on your hands. Sometimes blocks, like forearms to blocks, is a good in between. Some of you will have an easy time getting forearms to the floor. I like blocks in that case under my head. It's just like a nice opportunity to not have your neck hold your big head up for so long. Again, this is if you have the proppage. But it's more yin, and so it's not really about comfort. It's not about like, it's not a restorative pose where we're trying to be super comfy. I think in yin, props are more out of like necessity. Like if that's what it's gonna take for you to sit still for several minutes in a pose, it's like to prop your head, then do it. For sure. And then you can try to like let your legs relax a little bit. If you have major internal external rotation, like if you relax and your whole leg just like rolls in or out like big, then you might have to like put a little bit of effort into not letting that happen. Again, it's that conversation some of you in teacher training we were having this weekend about like being uber flexible isn't like the goal, and it's not even that great. Right? And so if you're super hypermobile in your body, that sometimes, you know, a class like yin where you're relaxing into it, you might have to like muscularize a little bit. Maybe. If you're tight like me, then you don't have to worry about that so much. You just kind of try to soften in. So it's also like knowing yourself and knowing your body. And if you're not sure yet, you'll learn. Just keep practicing. And so all of that fluid movement kind of in our first half of practice, the vinyasa, the movement with breath, a little bit faster paced. Now you kind of try to let that energy settle. Yin energy is different. It's a sort of more grounded, cooler energy. Not cooler like hip, cooler like temperature, like more cooling energy. We'll stay here for a few more moments. Take a few more breaths. Good. All right, y'all come up slowly. And you'll keep your left leg where it is and just bend your right leg in. If you have a block, this will be handy to put outside of your left knee or something. You could always rest your elbow to your shin or something if you have to, but then you'll side bend to your left and just rest your left elbow on that block or on your leg, again, whatever you've got, and you can just kind of rest your head in your hand or on your fist. And for now, just kind of keep that right arm chill on your side. Again, you can relax into this. It's more of a yin pose, but you'll If you're like me and you're really tight in your side waist, you'll feel a pretty big stretch here right away. Some people not so much, but part of the beauty of yin is we stay here for a while. And sometimes after a minute or two, it's like, oh, there it is. There we are. I used to have a teacher that would talk about, like, don't be a sensation seeker, right? Like, or don't be all about that, right? Sometimes in yoga, I think we get very hyper focused on, like, I need to feel the most sensation for it to be effective. And it's probably just a quick way to get yourself hurt, if I'm being honest. Like, if it's always about that. So, like, some places are going to be like, woo, this is intense. And some poses are going to be like, yeah, this is like subtle. It's not that big of a deal. And if we're always trying to like feel more, feel more, feel more, I think that's like just being really attached to some sort of feeling and kind of anti the whole point, right? If you want, if it's okay with your shoulder, you have the option to bring that right arm overhead and just kind of rest your head hand behind your head. And to keep it more yin-like, you can just kind of let your right elbow like flop so you're more chill about it. This just kind of brings more length into the armpit. I don't always do this variation because I personally get enough just chilling, but it can be nice if you like it and if you want it. And once again, find your breath, and if anywhere feels really sticky, stuck, tight, maybe you put your breath to that place. Again, like I was explaining in my class yesterday, it's not that like anatomically you can just be like breathe in your right side. That's not how breath works. But it's an energy thing, right? It's like putting your focus somewhere, your energy somewhere can sometimes sort of change what's happening there. There's definitely an energetic component to yoga, kind of that part of yoga that people don't have words for. Like, yeah, I left class, I feel good, but there's like more than that. And I don't know how to explain it. Like the energetics, it's the prana around it, the life force. Just take a few more moments here. If you've got your right arm overhead, release it and then slowly come up. Okay. So we're going to keep right leg bent, do one more pose on the side, but you'll kind of turn to your right so that you can set up for pigeon. So I'm just going to kind of curl those back toes under, right leg is in front, and however you're set up, doesn't really matter. Just get yourself in pigeon. It doesn't need to be the same entrance as me. And then once you're there, then you can come on down to the forearms. If you have blocks, blocks can be a nice little pillow, or you just kind of make a pillow with your hands, or if you're not going that low, you just kind of find a way to relax your head and neck as is. So in you go. And just try to soften. And same thing here, any amount you can sort of settle and soften in would be good, would be ideal. And even though pigeon is primarily a hip opener, you get some of those outer glutes, some inner thighs kind of surrounding the pelvis on that right side. It is so common for like other parts of the body to kind of take on the tension when we're trying to relax. So even though we're trying to like relax our hip here, the shoulders or the neck or the jaw kind of tend to grip. It's like, ooh, right? So anything you can do to soften everywhere is helpful, especially in those places that maybe directly aren't sort of affected by the pose. Our shoulders, neck, jaw tends to take on tension all the time. Notice next time you're in a stressful situation or you're stuck in traffic or you're upset, it's like clench the jaw. It's like ASAP. It happens right away. So we practice softening all of that in yoga so that maybe sometimes when we find ourselves in life doing that stuff, we might notice like, ooh, okay, relax my jaw. Soften the face. Full deep breath. Let's take a few more breaths here. Good. All right. Come up slowly and you'll just tip to the right and then you can kind of come back to face the direction you were when we had our legs wide. And just stretch your legs out in front of you and any sort of movement, shaking, wiggling. It's cool. Great. So right leg will go straight, left leg will bend in. We'll do our side bend. So whatever you used outside of that leg, go for it on the right, and you're going to bend to your right this time. And you can rest your elbow on your block or on your leg. Just kind of rest your head in your right hand or fist. And for now, just gonna leave that left arm by your side. I'll give you an alert when if you want to do more. But for now, just kind of let that left side open. And try to be soft if you can. Hmm. If you want to bring left arm overhead, hand behind head, and kind of relax into that shape. Potentially doing something similar to what you did on the first side, maybe, if it makes sense. We'll stay here for a few more moments, a few more breaths. If you have your left arm overhead, please release that slowly. And then take your time, everybody, to come up and out. I'm just going to shift to the other side of my mat because it's the left leg pigeon's turn. So however you want to set up, but you can turn towards that left leg and curl the right toes under. And you kind of have to work to square the hips a little bit. But then when you're ready, come on down for your pigeon, yin pigeon, right? Yin pigeon's different than non-yin pigeon. Non-yin pigeon, there's going to be more cues to like engage different places. And yin, you're more or less trying to relax into it. Again, there are clearly some exceptions. Uber flexies of the world, sometimes your work is to not go as deep as you can. Because often to get there, there's some hypermobility involved. And you do that a million times over the years is like not great. But for lots of us, you try to soften where you can. And it might be like different poses, different places, right? Like my hips are pretty tight. So that's where my work is to relax. But my low back is like super mobile, which isn't always good. And so sometimes I do have to always keep kind of a little lift in the belly. So I'm not just dumping into my low back and then try to focus my attention to relax the hips, right? So you can get like really specific the more you kind of understand your body, which is kind of fun, right? It's why I'm not bored of yoga yet. Always something to unfold, uncover. Here for a few more moments. Good. All right, y'all, come up slowly. And if you're not to the top of your mat, just face that way and stretch your legs out and give your legs a good squeeze here. Any wiggling movement is fine. And then you can come to lie down. Bring a block and a strap with you. If you don't have a strap, this will be easy. You don't need it. Just nice to have. And then if you don't have a block, maybe like a folded up blanket will work or something. Otherwise, you'll just have to do the active version of this pose, which is fine. You just won't be able to stay in it as long. So go ahead and lay down. and bend your knees. And just take a moment here. And let your knees knock in and rest your hands on your belly and take a few breaths as we kind of acclimate to being on our backs. So if you have a strap, grab it. If not, you'll be able to do the same thing. You just won't have the strap. And make your loop bigger, a little bit bigger than it was, so that you can slip your legs in it. And I want you to go like above the knees, but we're not going to cinch it as tight. So if you put your feet down, you still want your feet to be like as wide as your mat. So kind of cinch it up so that you can still have feet as wide as mat, knees as wide as mat. Yeah. Again, if you don't have a strap, you'll just bend your knees like this. And then with a block or whatever you've got on its flat side, so it's very flattest, shortest side, lift your hips up and just slip it under your pelvis. So it's like the tiniest supported bridge. Doesn't feel like much of a back bend. All right. And so the key for this is the placement of your block. So if your block is too high up in your low back, it is not going to feel good. It's going to jam up your low back. So you want it to be more on your sacrum or even closer to your tailbone, so that it almost kind of like tucks your tailbone under and you feel like your low back gets longer. So I actually like to hold on to my block while I do this. My feet are wide. You can watch for a second. And as I straighten my legs, my heels are going to be on the ground, toes up. Then I kind of wiggle that block down. So it's actually more on my tailbone. And you might find you need to like tighten or loosen your strap, but it just gives you a little bit of tension. So the block for me, what feels good, ends up being on the squishy part of my butt. And my low back feels great. So if your low back doesn't feel great, your block's probably not in the right spot. Those of you that don't have a block or a strap, you'll just lift up and do a bridge pose, take like 10 breaths, come down and rest, maybe do it again. But those of you that have the props or at least the block, stay here. And I'm going to bring my arms into this kind of field goal post shape. And you can just let your legs relax. So even if you don't have the strap, you can do this. And if at any point the leg straight just feels crappy in your low back, don't be a hero. Don't pretend it feels good if it doesn't feel good. Just bend your knees. You can do this pose with bent knees. It's maybe not quite as much hip flexor opening, but still great. And then just try to be soft. Obviously, if you're doing the more active version, because you don't have props, you can't be soft. You have to be active and you need to come down and rest. You won't be able to stay there very long. And we'll stay here for another minute or so. Last few breaths. So you can bring your arms down, bend your knees, and you can just pick up your feet so you can unclick your belt. And then lift your hips up and take that block out. Lower your hips down. Bring your arms loosely overhead and just take some windshield wipers here. If you need more than that, if you need like a full-on lying twist where you pull your knees into your chest and you kind of tip your legs both to one side. That's cool too. Otherwise, just a few rounds of windshield wipers. Feel free to linger if it feels good. When you feel pretty good from that, hug both knees into your chest. And so our last pose we'll do together this morning is Shavasana corpse pose. I think there's something about doing yoga at home, which can be great, right? It's convenient. Don't have to leave your house. But I think where we sometimes struggle, where I notice people have a hard time, is Shavasana, right? My kids are at school, thankfully, but for many years during COVID, all of y'all got the pleasure of having to like hear my kids run around, people's pets run around. Sometimes it's just like, all right, I don't have time for this. I got shit to do. But see if you can really make it a point to set yourself up well and rest. So if you've got a blanket, you could put that underneath your pelvis or your knees. And just really let yourself soften. So I'll give you several minutes in Shavasana before we close the class. And so see if you can drop in and just expect distraction, like especially at home. They happen at the yoga studio too. People's phones go off. There's loud traffic outside, all of those things. However, at home, I think there's just more things calling out to us. At the studio, it's like we're there. The laundry can wait, right? But at home, sometimes that's trickier. And so whatever you can do here to let that be, it will still be there in 5 minutes. And so let your toes flop out. Turn your palms to face up. Soften your jaw. Soften your face. Soften your eyes. And just find your breath. And just notice the way the breath comes in through the nose, fills your lungs, fills your belly. And notice how the breath then travels back up and out. So just start to deepen your breath here. Take your time to find small movements. Now, the beauty of home practices, if you want to take a longer Shavasana, totally can. But if not, if you've got to go about your day, then take your time to come up and find a comfortable seat. You can just meet me there. So just prop your hips up, rest your hands, sit up tall. Come back to that natural breath where the belly just expands and contracts as you breathe. And notice how you feel, right? Quick 60-minute practice, a little bit of movement, a little bit of stillness. See how it lands on your body, breath, heart, mind. And hopefully we can bring some of this with us as we go about our day and our week. So if you'd like to end our practice this morning with a bow, just bring your hands together and bow. Thank you so much. Thanks, ladies. Everyone who's going to do this later, enjoy. Have a great Monday. I'll see you soon.